odds are against me today. So we are going to go on the telephone. We have got David Horowitz with us today. David joins us live here on our program. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm pretty good.
Now, last time we had you on, you were talking about a new book that you've got out there, and Blitz is the latest. It is taking the nation by storm. Trump will win because Americans aren't stupid. That's a recent article that New York Times bestselling author David Horowitz wrote. And so David, tell us a little bit about Blitz.
Okay, it comes with an endorsement from the president. It's number 10 in the country, even though nobody in the mainstream media is reviewing it. And I think that's because I swore when I came out of the left I was going to not sugarcoat the truth.
Yes.
Republicans are way too polite. They say, for example, the Democrats are playing politics with this or that. They're not playing politics. They're at war. They've declared war not only on Republicans but on the country itself. I don't know if you were watching these terrible hearings today, but they were brutal. It was just, a crucifixion. They didn't let Barr, they interrupted him, talked over him, insulted him. They're thugs, Democrats. My book, Blitz, is a guide to the Civil War that's engulfing us now. And it's just continued with the coronavirus. I had to finish it when the coronavirus just got on the radar. So I had a little squib about it. But, and the race hoax and riots. But they just add to the fact that Trump is going to win the next election handily, no matter what these rigged polls say. The first thing Americans want from their government is safety. The Democrats are on the side of the criminals. Our streets are filled with criminals who are also they're traitors. They want America destroyed. This is Black Lives Matter. It's a treasonous organization. It's run by Marxists who adore Castro and the Hamas terrorists. It has no respect for our institutions. It was shown on July 4th with their violence, their attacks on America's past by tearing down all the statues, even Abraham Lincoln, a statue liberating a slave, a statue paid for by former slaves. No respect, no human respect. These are vicious, vicious people. Some of them are just crazy. You see these crazy people screaming in the streets about Black Lives Matter as though there's a war on black people in our country. All the statistics show the opposite. All the civil rights martyrs are criminals resisting arrest. The one who wasn't, one, of course, was Tamir Rice, but he was wielding a weapon that looked like a real revolver, and a stupid cop trigger-happy cop shot him. The cop, I believe, was prosecuted. Unfortunately, that kind of thing happens. Breonna Taylor had a drug dealer boyfriend. That's why they went into her house, and her new boyfriend, when the cops broke into the house with a warrant, shot a cop. So they shot back. That's why she's dead. It had nothing to do with racism. The death of George Floyd, there's no evidence whatsoever that it was racist. They charged 4 cops with murder, with no investigation, no grand jury. One of the cops charged with murder is an African American. Another is an Asian American. How does race figure into that? We don't even know what Chauvin was thinking because we haven't had an inquiry. And that's because Black Lives Matter is a lynch mob. Not only is it run by Marxists, but its tactics are lynch mob tactics. It's always demanding the officers be hung. in advance of a trial or any inquiry into the facts. So my book, I think, is more pertinent than ever. It is a guide to what's happening. It shows how the Democrat Party has become a racist party, how it's anti-American, and how it's criminal. And if you doubted any of those things, you weren't watching the hearings today of Attorney General Barr, where Democrat ignoramuses, vicious people, thugs, interrupted him, treated him with contempt, no respect shown, talked over him, didn't ask questions. Congressional hearings, the rationale for them is that congressmen make inquiries into officials so they can make better laws. This was just one indictment after another by, as I say, people who are beyond stupid. This Georgia Congresswoman, Lucy McBath, attacked, does it in the form of a question, but it's not a question, it's an indictment. But attacked Barr for mishandling the healthcare system. And didn't, talked over him as he tried to explain. He said, I'm an attorney. What am I going to do with the healthcare system? It didn't matter. She was just, trying to trash a white male Republican. That's basically what was going on. So our country is entering a very dark period. Unless Trump wins the next election, even then it's going to be war for decades.
We have got David Horowitz with us today. Blitz, Trump will smash the left and win is the latest from our good friend David Horowitz, and he joins us today here on our big broadcast. It's a New York Times bestseller. David Horowitz is with us today. He is an Amazon #1 bestseller. It's a great, great book, and it's got an endorsement from President Donald J. Trump. He loves the book. And so tell us a little bit about some of your goals for this book, David.
Well, I think it's important, first of all, to set the record straight and to do it. It's like a 200-page book. It's a very easy read. I wanted, people are very busy, so I wanted them, and it's very documented. I mean, there's a lot of footnotes. You don't have to read the footnotes, but if you want them anchored in some kind of reality, there it is. It shows why Trump was called a white supremacist. But when for 30 years he was a public figure, nobody referred to Trump as a white supremacist until he ran against a Democrat. How the Democrats own the inner cities, every injustice in the big inner cities of America, every killing field, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis, are all 100% controlled by the Democrat Party, which is responsible for every injustice in the inner city, and they have been for 100 years. George Floyd, there's not a Republican in sight in Minneapolis. Everything, if there was injustice to George Floyd, Democrats are responsible, but of course they like to blame Republicans, and the way they blame Trump for the coronavirus, even though he has no control over the healthcare systems in this country. I think one of the things that concerns me is that Republicans, except for Trump, don't talk straight enough. They don't, they say the Democrats are playing politics. No, they're not. They're at war. We're at war with Republicans, conservatives, patriots, and this country itself. They side with the Chinese communists who have used the virus as a biological weapon against us. They trashed our history. The New York Times was responsible for a Nazi-like narrative that America was founded in 1619 rather than 1776. That's to erase our heritage of freedom. The simple reality is that all blacks shipped to this country as slaves were enslaved by black Africans and sold at slave auctions in Ghana and Benin.
Yep.
And they were freed by white Americans within a little over a generation. all these lies about 400 years of slavery. You have to be a racist, an anti-white racist, to say anything like that, because America wasn't formed in 1619. There were English colonies, and ironically, the Virginia colony was outlawed slavery until the end of that century. So it's even the 1619 narrative is a lie. It's just really discouraging how our country has been set back 50 or 100 years by these Democrats. And it doesn't seem like anything. You can't reach them because they suppress the other side. They're not going to be discussing my book, I'll tell you that.
No.
But Don Jr. or maybe it was Trump put on Twitter, the studies show that hydroxychloroquine is a cure, and they kicked him off.
Oh, yeah, Don Jr., they got him today. They put him in Twitter jail, David.
If you turn on CNN, you won't see any riots. I mean, these are fascists. Democrat Party is a fascist party.
We've got David Horowitz with us today. Blitz is the latest from him. Trump will smash the left and win. He's with us today here on our big program. And it's a Amazon bestseller. It's a New York Times bestseller. It is an amazing, amazing book. So, David, what do you want readers to take away from your writing of Blitz?
Well, I think it will arm them with the facts. That's the first thing. And I don't think that Republicans have a low enough view of Democrats. I think if you were watching these mafia hearings today, you would just have nothing but contempt for Democrats.
That's awesome.
At least those on the Judiciary Committee. What bald-faced liars they are, what anti-American racists they are. But I also think it will guide people in how to fight this battle. The only way you can defeat the racism of the Democrat Party is to call them racists. And I only know one Republican who's called a Democrat, and it happened to be a black Democrat, a racist, and that's Trump. So my crusade is to get Republicans tougher and more accurate in their description of Democrats. Nancy Pelosi calls federal agents sent in to defend a hall of justice in Portland. She calls them stormtroopers. She said that's treason. She's betraying her country. You don't call federal officials Nazis because they go in to protect people and buildings, and you don't support criminals in the streets, which they're doing as well. And you don't accuse the President of the United States of being a traitor, being in Putin's pocket. She practically does it every day or every week with no evidence. In fact, with all the evidence showing that's completely false. That's a dagger aimed at the heart of our country. And you don't say that our founding was in 1619 because slaves were brought here and we're a slaveocracy. It's disgusting what the Democrats are doing, but I don't hear Republicans use words like disgusting, disgraceful, anything like that. They're way too polite.
David Horowitz with us today. Blitz, Trump will smash the left and win is the latest from him. And David, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on the program and talking about the new book, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Definitely. David, I will be in touch. And thank you, sir. Thanks for making this work today, brother. Appreciate it. There he goes, David Horowitz. And David is fired up as always. And we are going to take